Hello and welcome to another episode of Chillin' with Dylan. I'm your host, Dylan, and I'm so excited to bring to you another episode. This episode is a very, very exciting topic, and we've been thinking about this one for a while now. It is about how to art 101. So, a bit of a tutorial, let's just say, on how to succeed in the creative realms. And we have two special guests today. Um, one is old and one is new to the show, of course.
I thought you meant old as in like age.
Yeah.
I also did the same too.
Just want to introduce to the CWD verse our newest guest, Val. Welcome along.
Hi everyone. Hi Dylan.
And of course, we got Kelly again from one of our previous episodes coming at
Hi,
us.
glad to be back.
Yeah. So we're together today to discuss all things artistic and creative. So I thought maybe would you to just talk a little bit about yourselves and what you like doing in your spare time or maybe in your professional time, Val, if you want to get us going.
Hi everyone. So my name is Val. I'm a creative artist. I run my own pottery business. My pottery business is called Hey Val Ceramics. In my spare time as well, I love to sew and I love to go on walks. So that's just a short intro about me. Kelly, how about you?
I think what Val forgot to mention is that she also likes to go clothing shopping with me sometimes. I think it's like, hey, yeah, I may as well just introduce myself. Hi, I'm Kelly. What do I do? I guess for the loyal fans of Chillin' with Dylan, in previous episodes, I have shared that I am a software engineer at an airline in New Zealand. I'm still at an airline, but I've gone over to the dark side and I will soon be doing some data work. So, Guy, if you're listening, I think the podcast has convinced me and I'm converted.
We know who on that podcast, yes.
Yeah, so that's my day job. But I guess in terms of my spare time, I like to play music. So I play the violin. But I also kind of like noodle around with other creative things like coloring books. I don't know, and reading.
Yes, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing, you two. I guess I should talk a bit about myself. Probably the least creative in this building in terms of not really being very good at singing. Probably. I mean, I think karaoke. Does karaoke? Nah, let's not talk about that. We love our karaoke, but that's not a talent. I think this podcast is a fun outlet for me. And so yeah, spend a bit of time on this stuff. Obviously, in my day job, I do like similar things to Kelly. And what else do I do? Sometimes I've written a few articles in the past, just online, and sometimes I would like to write poetry when I'm bored as well, just for a bit of fun, just to round it out, and maybe some other things I'm forgetting. Who knows? Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks, guys. I think, I guess the point of this episode, we just want to like understand the entire creative process and what goes through your minds. First, we need to define a few things. What do you think is creativity, and what does it actually mean? Not just the Oxford English Dictionary answer, but do you all have a thought on that?
Yeah, actually, it was quite funny when you said, do you want to understand what goes through our minds? And I was like, oh, I'm not sure if you really want that. But just the other night, like I was actually chatting with Val about it. And we were like, oh, what is creativity? And the first answer that we came up with was just boredom. There was actually a TED talk about it, where someone was saying like, you actually get creative ideas when you get bored and like your mind kind of wanders a little bit. Would you agree with that, Val?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think also, I think creativity is just anything that you kind of think, like when you're thinking out of the box of like ways that can like improve yourself or improve lives, like in a way where you're just expressing, yeah, expression of an interest. No, not expression of interest, expression.
Nothing with
Very career,
expression.
very career
Sorry, I'm
focused.
somehow thinking of corporate. No.
It's hard. I think there's so many ways to think about it. Even defining this one word or one concept is a you can be pretty creative as well. You know, I mean, I remember one um, part of one of the previous episodes, like Kelly and I were on. We were talking about like data analysis in our day jobs, right? And how even something like that you can use to create new ideas and ways of looking at things. The start of something new or anything new or hasn't been thought of is in a sense creativity.
Callie, what do you consider, and what do you look at?
I was gonna be cheesy and just be like, "You're my creative inspiration." But
Oh
I feel like
no!
That's
drop
true.
the
That's
mic.
true. Not gonna. Wow, wow. You've been waiting the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me, because the creative field is a bit of like an outlet after my day job. Um, I do like to look at a large variety of things and people and see what they're working on. So, for example, like ceramics, about this, and I'm like, hey, I never would have thought about doing something like that, or like that's a cool color. Or like in terms of music, even though you have the same piece that you're playing, different artists have different interpretations of it. And so also seeing what their thought process is also quite interesting. Sometimes you may agree, sometimes you may not agree and be like, ew, why did you do that? But I think it's important to have that diversity of thought. Going back to basics, I think I actually really enjoy drawing a lot of inspirations from nature.
Mm,
You know,
that's
staring at some trees, staring at some water.
and then all of a sudden you're like a
You're an
landscape
artist.
artist.
Yeah,
You're
you're
an
an
artist.
artist.
You just
But I
you
feel
know.
like there's lots of inspiration no matter where you go. I guess it's just
Uh,
about like staring at it until it starts speaking to
uh,
you.
yeah. No. Speaking of, I should probably book some flights on Air New Zealand or something because I feel like uh,
Feel like
because
that's your creative inspiration, Dylan.
I know you kept saying nature, and I kept thinking of all my travels, and I think in a sense, for me, yeah, like just exposing yourself to, or just being exposed to, and like being in different locations and areas often brings about new ideas. I find that like yeah, whenever I do travel, like on a trip, whether it's just in the region or country or even internationally, maybe in the past. Um, like you start thinking about like things in different ways. Yeah, you don't even need to go on nature. You could literally. It's also cool, like just when you talk about with people who have a different perspective, those who live somewhere else to you. Because I do think after like a long time in a certain bubble, you might like start running dry of particular ideas. I don't know, like
Yeah,
that. Does that make sense?
gets a bit stale, eh?
Yeah, yeah. It's always good to get like inspiration in a different place. Like I remember when I used to travel a lot. By the way, guys, I travel, or like I used to, and been to lots of countries and continents. But
Oh wow! Oh my
Never
goodness, I'm
knew.
learning so
anyway,
much about you.
oh no. So this is up there. Might be in a city near you for those CWD listeners in far away lands. No, but like just especially solo traveling sometimes, if you have time, like just a day, just go to a museum or go to an art gallery go to somewhere where like there's all sorts of random things that you wouldn't necessarily encounter. Yeah, so that that can be real inspiring. Yeah.
I think also just like to add on that, Dylan, I think it's really great when people actually join like social clubs, you know, after like once they do have their day job and we're all working full time, actually giving ourselves like the opportunity to meet new people so that we have different perspectives on things.
Yeah.
Would
No,
you
I
say
think
that the creativity in that is like creating new bonds and new friendships?
Dang,
yeah.
Hey.
New
that was so
not
deep.
yeah. I was when you said new bonds, I was thinking chemical bonds, but like that was
Wow, that was
that's not
such a
quite.
creative thought, Dylan.
I know
This
we're
podcast is
just
working.
pushing the limits of podcasting in this session, aren't we?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it. And you know how they have those like 3x3 grids where it's like chaotic evil, like lawful
Yes,
neutral and stuff.
yes.
And I was like, oh, imagine if we had like something like that for creativity. Like your lawful neutral would be like drawing, and then your chaotic evil would be like, I don't know, cooking crystal meth.
What? Cooking what?
Cooking meth.
No. Oh yeah, that is technically creative. Or I've seen a lot. I mean, I've seen a bit of TikTok recently, thanks to certain people. But like when there's like all these TikToks on like cooking, most of them are real nice food and it's real new ideas. But then half like a good amount of them are like they just put like laundry detergent in a pot and cook it and chuck eggs or something. They just do something really chaotic, and I'm like, that's evil right there.
Kelly,
That's
isn't
yeah.
Approach of caution. Do not engage.
Do not. But the thing is, a lot of people, some people who aren't too versed at cooking might be like, actually, this could be good, and I'd be really worried if anyone like does that seriously.
you guys are both chaotic?
Well, Val, you know what they say. It takes one to know one.
Oh damn.
Can you? I've heard this. Oh, maybe it's not well known or something. Isn't it like you can understand the state of an artist's mind by the state of their room? So if it's really messy, then you kind of you know
What
what's
are you trying to
happening
say,
up there.
Dylan?
I don't know if I heard that somewhere, but that's kind of like a random thought.
I'm very concerned by that quote because my mom calls my room a fire hazard.
Oh yeah.
My dad once called my room a rubbish dump.
So much creativity.
The ways we can describe rooms and in metaphors. Anyways, how about something better to talk and think about? I was wondering if you had any proudest accomplishments, you know, like in the things that you've worked on in the past, just whether it's performances or pieces, whether there's something that you thought, you know, where you literally peaked in your creative sort of levels, you know. Yeah, I I don't know if I do have one. Probably like intermediate school or something. I was pretty embarrassed, but like, I mean, it is still, but like, used to play in a recorder band. That's pretty lit, you know. Like, we used to perform for the school. So shout out to Dilworth Intermediate Dilworth Junior Campus.
Dang,
Anyways, what about you
Dilworth
guys, Kelly?
Ellen.
Yeah.
Proudest accomplishments. I don't know. I think it's just like it's like I keep swimming in all these thoughts about like the stuff that I've done, and I think it's hard to like pick one. Almost
Mhm.
sounds a bit cliche to say like it's the journey that's my proudest accomplishment.
That's so true, though. That's so true.
Yeah, I would like to think that I am still reaching my peak. I don't know.
True.
I think it is hard, especially with a hobby like musical performance of some sorts, like playing in an orchestra. Um, Sometimes it is quite hard to, like you have the music, and then if you play one wrong note, it's one wrong note. Um, but then I guess in terms of proudest accomplishment, I think um, I am quite proud in terms of like how my mindset has changed over time when I approach it. I think it is very easy to kind of like bog yourself down and kind of play music based on like a fear-based mentality and go like, oh, if I play one wrong note, it'll be all over and super ruined. But instead to use it as an opportunity to go, it's an opportunity for you to work on something and for you to better yourself in the future. Um, yeah. On that note, though, I guess like something I am currently working on towards is I am sitting a music diploma in July. Shameless plug. If you're in Auckland, 7 p.m. Remuera, I have a recital.
What day is it?
This coming Monday. Oh wait,
Oh,
no. But
Oh,
by the
in
time you
June.
release the podcast, it will be over.
okay, yep. You just know that it was really successful.
Yeah,
We'll just
It was
speak
really
into it
good.
right now.
really
It was
good.
really
Yeah,
good by the time you hear it.
great
Yeah.
time. Shredded all those notes. Um, yeah. So I guess um, it was like a huge struggle, kind of brawling with this relationship with music and like coming to terms with it and being kinder to myself about it. It's probably my proudest accomplishment.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love that. Val, do you have any thoughts on yourself
Um,
and your stunning accomplishment so far?
I mean, there is this like running joke that I do have with my art friends. When we use the word like when when do you think you've peaked, or when do you think like are you peaking? Because generally, when you think about a graph, usually when it peaks, it's all downhill after. It doesn't come back up. And so there's this running joke with my friends where if we go to like a retrospective exhibition in our minds, it's like this artist has only peaked. It's all downhill from here. So it was just like as a side note that I thought. But um, I think like a lot of creatives, professionally and as a hobby as well. I think the thing that we really struggle with the most is having like imposter syndrome, and I think New Zealand really faced that. Or the what's the other term, like tall poppy syndrome.
Tall poppy syndrome, where you pull down the accomplishments of others as successful, or something like that. Yeah, like yeah,
Isn't it the idea that like you don't necessarily want to stand out too much? You all kind of want to be all the
yeah,
same.
exactly.
Um, I I think my biggest accomplishment definitely would be that I push through those fears of mine and kind of face it every day. Because to do this kind of professionally, sometimes you run the risk of like job security, and when does a pandemic ever happen? Once in 100 years. So,
Yeah,
but I think having that resilience, I think would probably be my most proudest achievement of mine
yeah.
that I still
That's
face every day to combat, I guess you could say.
it's really yeah no, it's really hard to achieve amidst all the chaos and uncertainty this world brings. I'd say no, and I think what like I've heard from both of you, it's not necessarily just like a physical thing or like a one sort of evening of a performance, but it's the personal growth somehow attached to yeah like just putting yourself out there and learning, right, and trying new things. It sounds like it actually provides much more. You just can't quantify it as much, but it's still there.
Yeah, there was this thought that I had, or somewhere that I had read, and it was about how to charge as a creative, and it was really interesting because on a customer end, they'll look at an expert and think, oh, it only takes you 5 minutes to do something. But in reality, it actually has taken the creative hours and hours to actually get to that point in order for it to take 5 minutes, and therefore that's why they charge it, because they can do it. They've done it so well and so efficiently. That's why it's at the price that it is.
Yeah,
For sure. It's
have
like
you ever?
knowing your self-worth, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Random thought. Yeah, no, like thinking about this on this other, but like, have you ever looked at macarons and been like, dang, these are so expensive?
Yes.
But like after learning how they're actually made, I'm like, okay, well, like there's a lot more that goes behind it, and certain things, other things related to baking, and cooking, and those things as well. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for
real.
sure. I feel like the thing I've noticed with like creative industry is that most of the times you look at it and you say things like, oh, I could have done that, or oh, that looks easy. But the fact is that I think the gist of it is that because you're so good at what they do, they make it look easy.
Yeah.
And then
I
you like
agree.
try it, or then you understand how it's made, and you're like, oh, it's really not easy.
Yeah, some person
I agree.
dedicated their whole lives. They behind the success is like a million mistakes or failures, right? Like often it's like that kind of thing. I don't know how many I don't know, cups or pieces of pottery Val's had to throw away. I've seen a few maybe
Countless.
that I've seen a few, haven't I? Just at uni even that you
Yeah.
have made, and you're like, that's not perfect.
Yeah.
But like just because something's not perfect doesn't mean I guess it can't be useful or like nice to look at or use or eat or whatever it is for people. I don't mean eat like clay, but like yeah, anything to do with food, but eat the things that do with food and don't eat the things that like don't do aren't
Yeah,
food.
don't eat clay.
Don't eat clay.
Summary of this whole podcast: don't eat clay.
Don't eat clay. But if you
Deepest
do, you won't die. It's okay.
What I
that
found was quite cool was that like you can recycle clay if you don't fire it, but also like with the things that you have fired that you don't want anymore, that you also have like a mosaic artist that you like give your stuff to. And I was like, whoa, this is like, like nothing really goes to waste, which is kind of cool.
that's so cool.
Yeah, I think what's really great about the medium, about clay, is the fact that you can recycle it at every stage. Ideally, you'd want to recycle it obviously before we put it in the pottery oven. But sometimes at every stage, sometimes there's happy accidents and sometimes there's accidents that you really didn't want to happen.
Whoopsies. Yeah, just little whoopsies. Fair enough. And on the other end, like I guess we can make mistakes and the things we try out, and that shouldn't really stop us, hopefully, from trying more and trying again and learning a new, perfecting a skill and things like that. But like, are there any other blockers? I guess things that might stop someone from achieving their potential in a creative field that you guys have either known about or gone through and overcome?
Social media.
What, like comparing or just like
Yeah, I think social media, there are positives and negatives about social media. The positives are you really get to connect with makers that you never, or even just people that you'll never necessarily cross paths with in real life. But thanks to social media and the internet, you've been able to actually connect with someone, let's say, like all the way out in Spain, and without even having to travel there, or vice versa. But the negative with social media is the fact that there's this overwhelming there's just so much overwhelming information and content, and at the end of the day it's a highlight reel. You don't necessarily see the kind of hard work or the grime that kind of comes with actually pushing it as a career. But even sometimes as like hobbies, I think especially on Instagram, it's really just about, your content has to be really good. Your Instagram grid has to be really amazing in order to get those followers and sponsorships.
Yeah.
So it's that like follower count that matters.
Yeah, reducing like a craft that's inherently, a lot of things are quite subjective into like numbers and statistics and quantitative something. Yeah, like things like that. It's a difficult thing to go up against sometimes.
I guess just jumping on that train. Yeah, like when you make something, like you as a person are involved, right? And I think one of the blockers that I can think of is like being, I guess, like unsure about how people would react to it. I guess in a society where we're so kind of tuned to instant gratification and like aesthetics and like nice stuff, because it is satisfying, like when things do work out. But then I guess there is also this underlying like fear of how people might react if it doesn't reach like a certain standard, to which I ask, like, who is the standard for, and is the standard helpful? Yeah, so I guess like in terms of like addressing these sort of issues or concerns that people may face, I guess kind of being in touch with like why you're really doing your craft. Like, are you doing it because you're sharing it with the world and you truly enjoy your passion, or are you doing it because like you're like counting the likes and the views, which is an indicator of like how many people you're reaching out to, but I don't think it's necessarily the end all be all.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. It's not, yeah, like I think a lot of people start some endeavor, and use it as a creative outlet, or like, to express themselves, but at some point through, whatever is like they encounter, whether it's social media or something else, it goes from like expressing yourself to counting your views and counting your likes and follows, and then, like looking at your, like, all the comments and stuff. Like, I think this is what tends to happen a lot, say on the YouTube realm, on the YouTube sphere, like all these artists are singing, and then, or like, people start making YouTube videos, and then all of a sudden they're like more like sort of like trying to keep all their like millions of fans happy, and they forget why they like got into it in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even if like normal musicians, like Harry Styles released a new album, and usually I'm like, I would never listen to this music, but then I was just like, oh hey, why not? And I listened to it. I was like, yo, this is really different to what he's done before. And I think that's like quite brave as well, because you would probably have millions of fans around the world expecting a certain vibe out of you as an artist.
Yeah.
But I think the courage to try something new, or like I guess to be your true authentic self, is probably the most important thing that you can do for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
you would imagine, say if you're in a log cabin in the middle of nowhere, what would you do to like truly, I guess, be happy or comfortable with who you are? Someone actually once told me this thing about like addressing insecurity, and they were saying like, oh, they asked themselves, okay, if I was 100% confident, what would I do? And usually you kind of already have an idea of like what you would do in that situation. I was like, whoa, this is kind of deep. I need to lie down here a bit.
How did you respond to that question, Kelly?
I said, "Whoa, this is really deep. I need to lie down for a bit."
Oh, yeah, me too.
That you didn't just do that mentally. You said that in real life to them.
But did you ever get back to them and like did you have an answer? Did you ever come to a conclusion?
I guess the topic at that point wasn't creative related. I think it was about like, should I change jobs or should I leave my company? Like, I'm just not sure what's the best path to take. But I guess along the same vein, it's like, when you like play music, like when you're 100% confident, how would you play? Like, because sometimes I look at a piece of music and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if this is okay, or I'm not sure if people will like this interpretation. Um, but I guess what people want to go to see is not just the thing, but also you as well. Like, you're part of that experience. And I think that if you kind of play it safe and reserve yourself, you're also kind of shorthanding people of the experience of sharing yourself with other people as well. And I think that connection is important.
I find that really interesting that you said that because I remember when I was in art school and there was a conversation about like where does our art stand and if it showed in an art gallery, could it stand alone by itself or do you who are you doing your art for? And I think there was like this discussion around sometimes yes you can make art for yourself but then you have to ask the question then is it necessary to actually show it on a platform or whether or not you should just have it at home because sometimes if your art is just for sometimes just for yourself then it might not necessarily need to be shared in the public.
Yeah,
but
that's such a good.
But I don't think for me I ever reached an answer to that. I think it was something I kind of had pondered about, and then I think I just tucked it away, just in the same way as I'm talking about it right now.
I was thinking about this, and I for some reason like a real hypothetical scenario because I think you were talking about like a log cabin, right, Kelly? But let's say hypothetically, somehow you just woke up one day and you were on Mars. You landed on Mars somehow. Someone drugged you, like maybe you were asleep for like however long it takes, a couple of months or years or whatever, and you're on Mars now. And there's no one else you'll ever see in your life, like at least physically, right? Like maybe you'll have like Instagram connection with like a reduced, I don't know, like a 5 to 10 minute lag due to the whatever. Anyways, like let's say without getting too technical now, but like you're somewhere there. Would you still sort of create art or music or anything or like poetry or writing or make things like for based on the opinions of like a lot of the experts or other people, right? Like you'll never see anyone in person again. Would you do it for yourself or would you do it on your own sort of accord, like what makes you happy or what is like what people on earth think? Like once
Okay.
you're separate from the environment, would you have to follow the constraints and standards and conventions of this a group? Or like I think about this like, and I would say I would just do whatever I wanted because it doesn't matter, no one's gonna see it, I'm the only one to see it. I'll just whatever makes me happy. I'll just make Martian clay statues of
Ooh, red
anything.
clay.
Yeah,
No.
doesn't matter, right? Like, yeah. Anyways, that's just
Um,
like a random thought experiment.
I guess to answer that briefly, I think there is a spectrum, right? Like, back to Val's topic about whether you should display art for the masses or art for like your intimate family and friends. And then on the end of the spectrum, also like if you're the only person on Mars, I sort of feel like as humans we're wired to crave connection. So on that vein of thought, if I was the only person on Mars, I would just be very, very sad. Yeah, it would be nice to kind of just do your own creative thing wherever you want. But I think the idea is that I do also enjoy somehow sharing it with people to a certain extent. Not to say that that's where I base my value on, but it's nice to know that um I'm doing the thing in my life and I'm able to share it with the people around me. Like, so I guess a fun fact, a lot of the music that was written around like the classical period, um, like a lot of them are just written for like families or like small gatherings. You know, like it's not like these days where you go to a classical concert and it's like you pack out the town hall. Um, and it's like a special occasion. A lot of the music was actually written for like home use and for people to kind of like, you know, spend time together. That was like, I guess, like the olden day equivalent of like when we hang together and we play some board games kind of thing, like
Yeah.
parlor parlor hangs. Um, and so yeah, I feel like, you know, like you have to consider the situation of like why are you doing what you're doing and to like I guess be comfortable with that.
Yeah. So just as you have like the best balance possible. There's the two extremes, right? We've gone through the like highly steer and follower sort of centric way of creating and like completely independent on another planet kind of creativity almost. So there's
A
like
whole
nothing in
other
between that
world.
tends to work.
Well,
Yes.
Be out of this world.
So like yeah, I mean with most things in life it seems there's like always a good balance struck in the middle depending on who people are, right? No, that's so cool. What a great and interesting and unplanned discussion. That was wild. Anyways,
yes.
I for the last bit of this, let's I don't know, like, do we have any more tips out just on how to make it and be successful in your field, or multiple fields, or whatever it is that these listeners want to do with their lives and with their time? Do you have any general thoughts and advice?
I think the best thing to do is really think about what is success and what is achievement in relation to yourself and base it on how you feel on that rather than base it as externally, because it's really easy to always look at what the next best thing is or if the grass is really greener on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. Is being self-aware and realistic with yourself is quite important. Um, not necessarily to compare, but I guess to kind of be in tune with who you are and being comfortable with that. Because I think once you accept where you are, then you can also accept where you can be.
I think also setting yourself goals. I think something that I've been trying to kind of learn how to do is seeing how my business can grow in the next 10 years, for example, with my business plan, but actually breaking that down into achievable goals from a year to 6 months, for example. And also just being really self aware that some things are just so out of our control. Like, for example, material costs have skyrocketed, living costs. That's
Yeah.
something that's been unpredictable, and seeing how we can kind of work around that. And also just really enjoying like our everyday, like our friends that are around us and family, and just making sure we keep ourselves taking care of ourselves and yeah, grounding ourselves as well.
Yeah, for sure. Just stay curious and have fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's What a
I
what a
agree.
great way to depict the life of an artiste. That's how you do it. You heard it here first. For me, I was thinking that if you wanted to make it out there in whatever creative endeavor or whatever dream that you had that you wanted to achieve, um, probably the first thing to think about is how you spend your time. Say, if you're like a young working professional doing a 9 to 5 job, 40 hours a week, look at how you might incorporate a hobby into your job. Pottery class, like sign up and commit to it. Like if you're into dance, sign up to a dance class, and then you start from there. Or just getting a first, if you haven't started already. Unfortunately, I think what I did at one point was a bit extreme. I straight up just quit my job, and then I got bored, just like Kelly mentioned. And then this podcast was born when I was bored and not working and unemployed. So you don't need to do that, but like maybe a real, you can like sort of squeeze and mold your time. If you wanted to go down a certain path. That's that's all the tips I can give.
Thank you so much, Dylan, for having us.
Yeah, this
Thanks,
is good.
Kelly. Thanks, Val. Chatting. I'll see you guys in real life at some point soon. And yeah, stay happy and creative in the meantime. Thanks so much. You've all listened to another episode of Chillin' with
Dylan!